The Warsaw Ghetto was established by the Nazi regime in German-occupied Poland in 1940, confining hundreds of thousands of Jews into a small, overcrowded area, under appalling conditions. Life in the ghetto. The inhabitants of the Warsaw Ghetto faced starvation, disease, and systematic oppression by the Nazi authorities, who aimed to isolate and ultimately annihilate the Jewish population. Formation of the resistance. Awakening of resistance. Despite the dire circumstances, a spirit of resistance began to emerge among the inhabitants of the Warsaw Ghetto, fueled by a determination to resist Nazi tyranny and preserve their dignity. Underground organizations. Secret underground organizations, such as the Jewish Combat Organization, ZOB, and the Jewish Military Union, ZZW, were formed to coordinate acts of resistance and defiance against the Nazi occupiers. Leadership. The resistance movement in the Warsaw Ghetto was led by courageous individuals such as Mordechai Anielewicz, leader of the ZOB, and Pavel Frenkiel, commander of the ZZW, who inspired and rallied their fellow Jews to resist. Acts of resistance. Armed resistance. The Jewish fighters in the Warsaw Ghetto engaged in armed resistance against the Nazi forces, using smuggled weapons and homemade explosives to attack German soldiers and disrupt their operations. Ghetto Uprising. The most notable act of resistance was the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which began on April 19, 1943, when the Nazis attempted to liquidate the ghetto. The Jewish fighters fiercely resisted, holding out for nearly a month against overwhelming odds. Street battles. During the uprising, intense street battles raged between the Jewish resistance fighters and the well-equipped German forces, with the ghetto becoming a battleground of defiance and courage. Symbolic acts. Alongside armed combat, the Jewish resistance in the Warsaw Ghetto also carried out symbolic acts of resistance, such as the smuggling of food and weapons, clandestine education, and the preservation of Jewish culture and identity. Aftermath and legacy. Suppression of the uprising. Despite their valiant efforts, the Jewish fighters in the Warsaw Ghetto were ultimately overwhelmed by the superior firepower of the German army. The uprising was brutally suppressed, and the ghetto was razed to the ground. Symbol of defiance. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising remains one of the most iconic acts of Jewish resistance during the Holocaust, symbolizing the indomitable spirit of the Jewish people in the face of persecution and genocide. Legacy of heroism. The heroes of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, including Mordechai Anielewicz and Pavel Frenkiel, are remembered as symbols of heroism and bravery, inspiring future generations to never forget the lessons of history. Remembering the resistance. Memorials and commemorations. Today, the memory of the Jewish resistance in the Warsaw Ghetto is honored through memorials, museums, and commemorations, ensuring that their sacrifice and bravery are never forgotten. Educational outreach. Efforts are made to educate people about the history of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising and the broader Jewish resistance movement during the Holocaust, fostering understanding and empathy for the victims and survivors.